Good morning. It is 8:50 Central Standard Time. My name is Daryl Dimitrick. I'm the Executive Director of the Manitoba Pulse and Soybean Growers. Welcome to the MPSG's annual general meeting. The meeting will start at 9 o'clock. To members joining through Zoom, I'm going to take a minute to review the features available at the bottom of your screen that will be used to communicate during the meeting. Cal, our chair, will repeat this material for attendees who join right at 9 o'clock. The Q&A button is for questions, comments, or business you want to bring to the meeting. If you see that someone has already entered a question you wanted answered, click the thumbs up to bring it to the top of the window. Please note, we will not take anonymous questions. The raise hand button is to move or second a motion, or to personally ask a question. The chat button is for informal discussion with other attendees. Please note that this feature will not be monitored during the meeting. For your convenience, the AGM material is available for download in the chat feature. If you have a specific question you would like to ask directly, please use the Q&A button and let us know what your question is concerning and who it's for. You'll have the opportunity to ask your question at the right time in the meeting. When we invite you to speak, please be sure that you are unmuted, and we welcome you to turn on your video. If you are joining from your mobile device or tablet, you can swipe side to side to find the view that you prefer. To see the Q&A, raise hand, and chat features, you may need to tap your screen. If you have used the call-in feature to join the meeting, that is on your phone, you will not be able to access the Q&A, raise hand, chat, or voting features. Welcome to our guests joining via the live stream feed. Please note that as guests, the Q&A, raise hand, chat, and voting features are not available or visible to you. This meeting will be recorded and shared on our website. Once again, the meeting will begin at 9 o'clock. Good morning. It's Daryl Dimitrick, Executive Director of the Manitoba Pulse and Soybean Growers. It is coming up on 9 o'clock Central Standard Time, and I would like to turn the screen over to our chair, Elm Creek farmer, Cal Penner.
Thanks, Daryl. As Daryl noted, I'm Cal Penner. I'm also the chair of the board of directors of MPSG. Welcome to our second annual general meeting. We were hoping to be able to meet in person, but we are grateful for the technology that allows us to welcome members and guests joining us virtually this morning. Hopefully next year we can meet around a cup of coffee and breakfast. Members joining the AGM via the Zoom webinar will have the opportunity to participate in the meeting. Guests joining via the live stream are observers only. Here's just a few reminders before we begin. Please use the Q&A, should be at the bottom of your screen, for questions, comments, or business you want to bring up to the meeting. If you see that someone has already entered a question you want answered, click the thumbs up to bring it to the top of the window. Please note, we will not take anonymous questions. Use the raise hand to move or second a motion or to personally ask a question. The chat is for informal discussion among other attendees. Please note that this feature will not be monitored during the meeting. For your convenience, the AGM material is available for download in the chat feature. If you have a specific question you would like to ask directly, please use the Q&A and let us know what your question is concerning and who it's for. You'll have the opportunity to ask that question at the right time in the meeting. When we invite you to speak, please be sure that you are unmuted, and we welcome you to turn on your video. Members will see that we'll be using the poll questions for voting purposes. When asked to vote on a motion, you will have the option to vote in favor or opposed. Polling questions will not be visible to guests. We have Sandy and Melissa in the background helping me out today by monitoring the Q&A and raise hand features. When voting, the poll question will pop up on your screen and you will have 15 seconds to submit your vote. Unofficial results of the vote will be announced and visible to members. The votes will be audited and verified after the meeting with official results captured in the meeting minutes. Please note that this meeting will be recorded, and if for some reason we are unable to get to a question, we will reach out following the meeting. With those details out of the way, I call to order the 2022 Annual General Meeting of the Manitoba Pulse and Soybean Growers Association. So the first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. So I trust that you've all had time to review the agenda in the chat and in your meeting packages. If there are any additions to the agenda, please enter them into the Q&A feature now. While Sandy and Melissa are monitoring the question and answers, I want to remind everybody that the meeting is being recorded and it will be posted to the website shortly. Are there any additions to the agenda from the membership?
No, it doesn't appear that there are, Cal.
Okay, seeing that there are no other additions, I'd like to call for a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Please use the raise hand feature to move the motion now.
So we have John Proyne.
Okay, John Proyne.
And
do we have a seconder? Please use the raise hand feature now.
Randy Fraze.
Randy Fraze, seconds. Now that we have a mover and seconder, is there any discussion? Please use the Q&A feature to enter any comments. If there is, are there any questions or comments?
Nothing's showing up yet, no.
Seeing that there's no discussions, members can now vote on the motion. You should see a motion pop up on your screen. You will have 15 seconds to submit your vote. Please vote now. While we're just filling time and waiting for the results of that to come in, I'm going to ask you if, in order to fill some of the time, that you can use the chat function to talk about what you may be doing differently in 2022 from 2021, either in the way of rotations or cropping practices, especially as it results to soys or pulses. And then also, please let us know what part of the province you're from. Might be an interesting discussion to see, sort of like a coffee shop. So I see that we have the results in. So the motion is in favor, and so I will declare that carried. In order to allow all members to comment via the question and answer and raise hand feature, we will abide by the rules of MPSG's annual general and special meetings. The following is an abbreviation of these rules. All members wishing to participate in the meeting must have pre-registered. Members must limit their remarks to the question or motion at hand. Questions from guests will not be taken. A member may submit only one question or comment to a motion, amendment to the motion, or sub-amendment to a motion. In the interest of allowing all members to speak via the raise hand feature, comments will be limited to 2 minutes. The chair, I will give notice when the speakers had 15 seconds remaining, in which case the speaker should close their comments. The minutes of the 2021 AGM were sent out prior to the meeting. I will ask if there are any errors or omissions, to please comment via the question and answer feature. I'll give everybody a few minutes to enter any comments. While Sandy and Melissa are checking for questions, I want to mention to members who are interested in participating in MPSG's on-farm trials to submit a request through our website. It's something that we've done on our farm for a number of years, and they're a great way to see if some of the practices that are trying to be sold to you are actually good, or if you want to try something new and you compare it to other farmers as well. So our Ian and his team there at the on-farm network would be glad to talk to you. Are there any comments raised from the membership, Sandy?
No, there are not.
Okay, seeing that there are no questions arising from these minutes, I would like to call for a motion for the minutes of the 2021 annual general meeting to be adopted as circulated. Please raise a hand now.
Okay, we have Bryce McMillan.
Bryce McMillan moves. Do we have a seconder?
Yes, Ernie Sersky.
Ernie Sersky seconds. Thank you. Now, is there any discussion to these minutes? Please use the question and answer feature to enter any comments. Just a further comment while we're waiting for Sandy to check that out. We also have a results of many years of on-farm network trials that are available, and so that would also be on the website. That if you wanted to check that, and please keep checking back with the website as things are always changing and being added. Sandy, are there any more comments?
No, there are not, Cal.
Seeing as there are no discussion, I'll ask you to vote. While we're waiting for that, I just maybe mention our new science edition Pulse Beat just came out. And so there's not only production ideas in there, but I'd like to point out the research on the benefits of eating pulses on heart and vascular health that would be found on page 14. You've always been told that pulses are good for you, but now we can quantify that. Okay, that has been carried. So I will declare that carried. Okay, so now I'd like to call on Brendan Phillips, the chair of the nominating committee, to present his report.
Thanks, Cal. I am pleased to present the following report on behalf of the nominating committee. MPSG Board of Directors, per the bylaws, must be composed of a minimum of 8 and a maximum of 10 directors. All directors must be active members of the corporation, elected at the annual meeting, and serve for a term of 3 years. Only candidates put forward by the nominating committee are eligible for election. In 2022, the terms of 3 directors expire. They are Cal Penner, John Proyne, and Garrett Sawatsky. Cal is not seeking another term. Incumbent nominees John Proyne and Garrett Sawatsky filed their nomination papers for re-election. Candidate nominee Alex Burgess submitted his nomination papers for election. These 3 candidates will bring us to the maximum of 10 directors. Since no other members filed nomination papers prior to the January 27th, 2022 deadline, I declare these 3 elected by acclamation. I am very pleased to welcome the new board member, Alex Burgess, and returning directors, John Proyne and Garrett Sawatsky. On behalf of the nominating committee, that is our report. I'll turn this back to you, Cal.
Thank you, Brendan. Welcome, Alex, to our board. And now we will see the auditor's report. So Alex George will be doing that. And just a reminder, before I introduce him, to submit questions related to the auditor's report via the Q&A feature. We will answer questions at the end of the report. So I'd like to now turn it over to our accountant, Alex George of George & Associates, Chartered Professional Accountants, who will be presenting the 2021 Auditor's Report.
Thank you very much. Let me just get to the screen there. All right, to start off, it's a review of the audited financials for Manitoba pulse and soybean growers. If we can turn to page 1 for the independent auditor's report there. For some reason that's not showing up. For 2021, we had an unqualified opinion, meaning the statements were presented fairly in all material respects. If we can turn to page 4 for the statement of financial position. And cash stayed consistent at $5.6 million. Going into short-term investments, they're reported at fair market value of $1.38 million. Those investments have a cost base of $1.310 million. And then that investment accounts, it consists of 2 accounts, one fixed income fund of $1.04 million and the equity fund of $345,000. I'm just going to let the screen catch up to the financials here. There we go. For receivables, the balance is $360,000, which is a drop of $384,000. This was due to a drop in checkoff receivables of $382,000. Simply a timing issue of the levies collected before year end versus after. That receivable amount is made up of levies of $337,000 receivable, trades receivable of $3,200, and then the CEBA loan debt forgiveness of $20,000. Going into prepaids, they were up $120,000 to $189,000. The major items included in that prepaid are mostly sponsorships. The PIC sponsorship of $80,000, Crop Connect of $33,000, Soy Canada of $17,000, and Grain Growers of Canada of $16,000. Into the capital assets, looking at the cost, there was one additional truck purchased of $76,000, and as well there was disposals of a combine and seeder equipment. This equipment was donated to crop centers. The original cost of that equipment was $251,000. The accumulated depreciation was $173,000, giving a loss on disposal of $77,000. If we can turn to the next page there. For accounts payable, fairly consistent, up $45,000, but mostly due to timing issues. The major items included in payables was to the Westman's Ag Division Diversification Organization of $12,000. For government remittances of $17,000, that is simply source deductions payable. The administered funding payable of $17,000. This is just the balance of funds being administered for the CAP program in 2021. Long-term debt of $60,000, that is essentially just the CEBA loan. Going into deferred grants of $35,000. This was essentially funds received early for projects not yet completed. Going into net assets, we have internally restricted reserves of $5.8 million. That consists of a wind down reserve of $650, an operating reserve of $650 as well. Future research reserves of $2.76 million. Science cluster reserve of $1.45 million, and then the MPSG restricted funds of $340. If we can turn to the next page, to the statement of operations. Next page there, one more. There we go. Net checkoffs for the year was $2.82 million. The drop is mainly due to 500,000 less levies collected, and refund rates increased from 5.2% last year to 8.6% this year. The details are found on note 10. Going into investments, investment income did dip in 2021. Realized gains and interest was 60,000, and the unrealized gains was 43,000. For deferred grants, that increased substantially to 39,000. Essentially, the equipment related to this grant was disposed of, so the remaining deferral was recognized into income. For miscellaneous income, the 4,000 there, essentially MCA, the Crop Alliance, took over the duties for the bookkeeping of another association. Expenses overall were under budget, leaving a net excess of revenues over expenses of 654,000. If we can turn to the next page there. As detailed, all items were under budget. However, this was expected due to COVID and the resulting canceled events. If we can flip to page 13 of the notes to the financial position, statements, I should say. There, that would be good. Oh, yeah. For note 8, it's detailing the loan for the CEBA, which is repayable. CRA extended that repayment to December 31st, 2023. If it's not repaid by then, it turns into a loan with interest-only payments until December 31st, 2025, at which time the full 60,000 becomes due. So as you'll note in the 5-year repayment, in year 2025, the full 60 would become due if not repaid earlier. If we can flip to the next page. Here we have the deferred grants on note 9, funding received of 511,000 and funding recognized of 512, as well as the capital asset grants recognized of 39. In note 10, this details the net checkoff amounts received. As you can see, there was a drop of around 500,000 in gross checkoff levies, and the refund rates increased to 8.6% as a percentage of sales. If we can flip to the next page there. All right, note 11 just details internally restricted assets already covered. Note 12 will detail the next 5 years of research commitments totaling $2.65 million. And then note 13 details that checkoff refunds payable are not reported because they cannot reasonably be estimated as of the year-end date. If we can turn to the next page. And just noting note 16 at the bottom there, the financial impact of COVID-19, just providing an explanation as to the impact of 19 as canceled events transition to virtual events, and we can't fully estimate the financial impact of what the pandemic may hold for the long term. And then if we can go to the final page on 17. Note 17 will just provide details of the gifted assets, explaining that it had a net loss of 77,000, which is essentially the carrying value it had on the financial statements. And I'll go to the Q&A if there's any questions about the financials there.
There's no questions that have been entered in so far, but I'll let you know.
Okay, we have no questions yet, but we will invite questions or discussion. Really ask for while we have Alex here, and so we just wait a few minutes for those if there's something coming up, and we can do that. We'll just, it's an important part of our what we do here at MPSG, and it's always good to understand what's going on. So please enter your questions. Okay, do we have any questions at all, Sandy?
No, we don't, Cal.
Okay, seeing as there's no further questions, I'd like to call a motion to adopt the 2021 Auditor's Report as presented. Please use the raise hand feature to move the motion now.
It's moved by Jack Fraze.
Thank you. We have a mover, Jack Fraze. Do we have a seconder?
Yes, Scott Penner.
Scott Penner seconds it. Thank you. Now that we have a mover and seconder, is there any discussion? Any one last chance at discussion? Financial statements.
No questions have rolled in yet.
Okay, seeing that we haven't had any questions, I will call for the question. Now members can vote on the motion to accept the auditor's report as presented. So while the votes are coming in, I'll just ask the members again, if you have any thoughts on your crop rotation and what you're going to plant in 2022 that's different than 2021, just to put it into the chat function. Okay, I'll declare that motion carried. Thank you, Alex. So now I will ask for a motion that George and Associates Chartered Professional Accountants be appointed auditors for the Manitoba Pulse and Soybean Growers for 2022. Please use the raised hand function to move the motion now.
So we have Chuck Fossey and John Poyne seconds.
Okay, Chuck Fossey moves and John Proyne seconds. Thank you. Are there any discussion now that we have a mover and seconder? So while we're waiting to see if there's any discussion related to the appointment of the auditors to come in, I want to remind the members that there's time scheduled on the agenda for open discussion questions later on. Sandy, do we have any discussion?
No discussion.
Thank you, Sandy. Seeing that there's no further discussion, I will ask for the question now. Members can vote on the motion of accepting George and Associates to be appointed auditors for the Manitoba Pulse and Soybean Growers for 2022. You should see the motion on your screen. Please vote now. While we're waiting for this, I'd just like to also highlight our website again, manitobapulse.ca. There's many excellent production resources there. It's constantly being updated, so keep checking back. The contact information of our staff is also there. If you have a question that is not answered on the website as well, we have some questions. We have some handy fact sheets that we have laminated to stand the rigors of the inside of a farm truck during the season. So we have the motion there. I will declare that carried. That George and Associates will be the auditors for 2022. So I guess just I will remind you that we can submit questions related to the scientific research and experimental development presentation report, also known as SHRED, by the question and answer function. So we will answer questions following the presentation. So I will ask Melissa Denny to present the 2021 Scientific Research and Experimental Development, also known as SHRED. Go ahead, Melissa.
Good morning. I'm Melissa Dennis, the Director of Finance and Administration for the Manitoba Pulse and Soybean Growers. Farmers who contribute pulse and soybean checkoff dollars to the Manitoba Pulse and Soybean Growers, MPSG, and are in good standing with the association are eligible to claim a federal tax credit through the Scientific Research and Experimental Development Program, SHRED. Checkoff dollars that have been refunded by MPSG do not qualify for this credit. The tax credit is based on the amount of checkoff MPSG invests in research and development that meets specific criteria set out by the Canada Revenue Agency each year. For the 2021 year, 23.82% of the Manitoba Pulse and Soybean checkoff qualifies for the SHRED tax credit. Next slide, please. Farmers can calculate their total checkoff contribution by referring to their pulse and soybean sales receipts. The checkoff contribution is shown as a deduction from the total pulse and soybean sales on the sales receipt. Total contributions for the year is the amount withheld from all your pulse and soybean sales during the year. Of this total, 23.82% is eligible to earn an investment tax credit. Next slide. Full examples on how the individual and corporate forms are completed and how the investment tax credit is calculated are available on the MPSG website at the web address seen on the screen. Next slide. For more information on this credit, please consult your accountant or visit the CRA website. The 2001 to 2021 SR&ED tax credit rates are available on the MPSG website. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. I'll turn it back over to Cal now.
Thank you, Melissa. Are there any questions about the SHRED, what Melissa's SHRED report?
Nothing
Please.
has come in so far, Cal.
Okay, I don't see any or haven't heard any. Thanks, Sandy. And so we'll move on. So I'll move on to call on Daryl, our Executive Director, to do the Executive Director and the Research and Production reports. And just a reminder, if you have a question, please enter it as you go, and then Daryl will answer it at the end. Daryl, take it away.
Thanks, Cal. Yes, please enter your questions. I'll answer them with respect to this report after this report, and then I'll move directly into the research and production report. So with COVID-19 overstaying its welcome into 2021, MPSG was forced to adjust operations accordingly as in the previous year. Although in-person extension activities were again canceled, the vast majority of our activities continued under the required pandemic protocols. Staff, directors, farmer cooperators, and our partners in research and extension worked diligently to ensure work was done well and done safely. With 2021 being a season of extreme drought, a lot of learning occurred. Those of us that have been around a while forget that younger folks have not experienced full-on drought. Well, they have now. Through the heat, dust, and hoppers, we encourage staff to observe and remember what it takes to farm in this part of the world, and to appreciate the fact that for all our technology, Mother Nature still holds the hammer. I hope the lessons stick and serve them throughout their careers. We continue to follow the ups and downs of pulse and soybean acres. Of course, these trends are integral to MPSG's business planning. Drought impacted all crops in 2021. The question is, what lasting impression did the performance of pulses and soybeans leave with growers? Some growers have dropped soybeans in response to consecutive dry years. Some have increased pea sowings for the same reason. Dry bean growers tend to be reliable stalwarts and increase acres in response to price. That said, new dry bean growers have come on board in the Southwest region and in the Swan River Valley area. I noted in the chat today that Jeff Elder is sticking with his same rotation, and John Freund indicated that maybe a little less canola, a little more soybeans and sunflowers in the South Interlake area. I guess time will tell. Pulse and soybean prices, like many other commodities, are relatively strong. At least some soil moisture has been replenished, if judging by the snowpack we have so far. Particularly relevant this year is the fact that legume crops like ours are somewhat insulated from the high cost of nitrogen fertilizer. For some growers, pulses and soybeans provide a good alternative in areas where other crops face challenges from disease, for example. For sure, the dramatic response of soybeans to even the slightest shower in August has been confirmed. The probability of such a weather event may not factor into many planting decisions, but then again, it might. Again, we'll see. All this is to indicate the annual guessing of acres has become a permanent feature of MPSG budget planning. In 2021, given the generally volatile nature of markets, we established conservative expectations for the extent and size of the pulse and soybean crop, even as we pegged prices a little bit higher. Turning to other issues, producer-led groups are great training grounds for the next generation of ag professionals. In 2021, we said goodbye to Megan Burns, who led our on-farm network for 3 seasons. She's off to the US to complete a PhD. Early in the new year, we welcomed another outstanding young agronomist in Leanne Carrossel, who's taken the reins on the on-farm network program. In other staff news, our veteran agronomist, Cassandra Kotchuk, assumed responsibility for research recently in 2022. We also made some adjustments in how we employ communication specialists by moving to a contract format. Communication with farmers is one of the toughest things we do. Already, I know we're reaping the benefits of our change in approach by attracting some fine communications talent in the person of Elizabeth Harms into the MPSG fold. I think members should be reminded that employees are the basic ingredient to a successful research and extension enterprise, and currently MPSG is in a great spot. In 2021, MPSG remained a field-oriented organization. The majority of our resources, the vast majority of our resources, are spent on activities in the field. Whether it was 54 farm-scale trials in members' fields or surveying crop health on 130 fields across the province, our in-house field program is our core business. Even research that is assigned to universities in Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada is overwhelmingly of the field variety. The field is simply where our members' challenges and opportunities are best expressed. Sometimes we transmit the field problem into a laboratory assignment. Recently established objectives in developing drought-tolerant soybean, for example, require a detailed understanding of plant genetics and physiology, which can only be achieved in the lab. Even there, however, our goal is to test new drought-resistant varieties in the field in Manitoba. This field-oriented approach will continue as the research program in MPSG continues to evolve. Policy activities really picked up speed in 2021. Leading the way were discussions on sustainability at the national, provincial, and industry levels. MPSG weighed in to support the unique attributes of pulses and soybeans with respect to climate change. Our national groups, Soy Canada, Pulse Canada, and Grain Growers of Canada, are great advocates for our crops and for farmers in general. We support them with Manitoba perspectives, not only on climate, but on decisions by the Pest Management Regulatory Agency, by Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, Canadian Grain Commission, and on various national industry initiatives. Provincially, Keystone Ag producers receive support from MPSG in their efforts to provide ag policy advice to the provincial government. MPSG is also in regular communication with Manitoba Ag Services Corporation on matters related to agri-insurance coverage for pulse and soybean crops. The past year was a watershed, I think, in collaborative discussions amongst Manitoba commodity groups. We all seek the proper role and balance of responsibilities in formulating local farm policy. We hope the ground we covered in 2021 leads to effective and efficient representation of producers' concerns in the policy arena in 2022. I want to close my report by emphasizing that despite a recent drop in soybean production, the level of research, extension, and policy activity inside MPSG has never been higher. This reflects the ongoing strength of MPSG's resolve to improve the fortunes of pulse and soybean growers who entrust us with their checkoff dollars. I am confident these investments will yield significant dividends for growers. And with that, I'll ask if there are any questions related to my executive director's report.
There hasn't been anything come in yet, Daryl.
All right. One more check, Sandy.
No, still nothing there, Daryl.
All right. Certainly open to questions at the end of this following report as well. So now if I could have the next slide, I'll move into the research and production report. Great. So in 2021, the research and production program of MPSG continued along 4 themes that were established a number of years ago. Built around our vision of Manitoba farms sustainably producing profitable pulse and soybean crops, we continue to dedicate resources towards improving yield and quality of pulse and soybean crops, reducing the cost of pest control, growing the demand in the marketplace for our crops, and improving soil quality. Next slide, please. These investments were expressed in 2 broad areas of programming. In research, where we covered the waterfront from upstream work in the lab, as I mentioned, a big focus on what you would consider traditional small plot field research in the field, and a big feature of MPSG's program, the on-farm network. The concept is that we make investments in all these areas to carry questions and answers throughout the various scales of research that are conducted in Manitoba. But there's really no point in investing in research unless you're going to have an effective extension program. And so we continue to report results of research through a number of extension avenues, and I'll go into some discussion of those later. Next slide, please. So I will describe the research program in a 5-year block between 2018 and 2023. That is the Canadian Agricultural Partnership time framework. And 2021 was the second last field season in the CAP research program. Most of the projects that we fund are tied one way or another to the CAP 5-year time frame. And at this point, interim and final results from various projects are flowing from researchers to MPSG offices. And the results are being translated by our agronomists into farmer-friendly articles, tweets, and other methods of distributing the information to our members. Next slide. In 2021, there were 121 research projects underway. That included 21 projects in the federally funded agri-science cluster, 14 agronomist in residence trials that MPSG funds at the University of Manitoba, 54 on-farm trials in our in-house on-farm network, and those are conducted in alliance with our own members, and 32 projects co-funded 50-50 with the Canada-Manitoba CAP Ag Action Program for Research and Innovation. This included three new projects that were initiated in 2021. Next slide, please. Going into a little bit more detail, the agronomist in residence program in 2021 conducted 14 trials across 8 different topics and conducted extension to extend the results of those trials to our farmer members. Next slide. The on-farm network conducted 54 trials in 2021, covering 4 topics. On the slide, you'll see the dots representing all the sites across Manitoba where those trials were conducted in 2021. Since 2012, the on-farm network program has conducted 418 trials. And as I'll refer to in more detail later, the results are all on our searchable website. Next slide, please. Total research funding, that is of growers' checkoff dollars that have invested since 2018, total $7.378 million. 31% of those dollars are in the area of reducing pest control costs. 54% are dedicated towards research to improve yield and quality, 9% to grow the market for our crops, and 6% to improve soil quality. Next slide, please. In 2021, 3 projects worth a combined $102,416 were approved by the Canada-Manitoba CAP program. Now, it's important to note that in 2021, Manitoba's CAP program was open to single-year or capital purchase projects only. And this is because the program will wind down over 2022. Members should know that this leaves a gap until the next policy framework begins in 2023. And we're currently working with our sister organizations in Manitoba and across Canada to ensure that there are, in fact, research programs available in 2023. Next slide. Again, in 2021, MPSG employed 2 agronomists, roughly working in an east-west fashion across Manitoba. Both hold Masters of Science degrees. Both are Certified Crop Advisor accredited. Next slide. We had a number of new production resources issued in 2021. Cal mentioned that these are tough laminated hard copy versions, as well as they're available in electronic format. This year, we developed a guide to conducting on-farm trials for farmers who want to learn how to do it on their own. We developed a dry bean desiccation and harvest guide, which is extremely important these days when things like maximum residue limits, et cetera, are very important in destination markets. We developed a faba bean insect and disease scouting calendar. Next slide, please. And we followed those up with a field pea desiccation and harvest guide, again, very important in today's trade environment, a fungicide decision worksheet for managing Mycosphaerella blight in field peas. And as well, we collaborated with Manitoba Department of Agriculture and Roquette to develop a fact sheet on organic field peas. Next slide. In 2021, we continued our very successful multi-location variety testing program, which resulted in the 2021 Pulse and Soybean Variety Guide. In the regional variety tests, we conducted a total of 58 trials. That included 38 soybean trials, 8 dry bean trials, 10 field pea trials, and 2 faba bean trials. This program is cost recovery as we charge seed companies to enter varieties into these trials. I want to mention that the program is helped administered by Dennis Lang of Manitoba Agriculture, and I want to recognize Dennis's contribution to this program. Next slide. In terms of our in-person extension, as I mentioned, a number of them were again canceled due to COVID. Our Getting It Right program was canceled, as was our Smart Day, Soybean Management and Research Transfer Day. However, staff did participate in 20 interviews with the farm press, and staff produced and posted 16 videos of their field observations as they traveled the province and visited you on your farms. Next slide. I want to make note that there is an upcoming virtual event. Getting It Right is coming back for 2022, March 9th in the morning, and we'll cover topics such as soybean protein, Aphanomyces root rot in peas, soybean cyst nematode, and a number of topics from the on-farm network. And you can register on the Manitoba Pulse and Soybean Growers website. Next slide. The Bean Report is a feature that's grown in popularity every year. This year, there were 19 reports including weekly reports in season, as well as extending reports throughout the winter. These are distributed via email and via local radio stations across Manitoba. In these reports, we include a number of research results, but it's mainly focused on information that our agronomists collect from walking over 130 fields throughout the season. So it's real-time information directed at the problems and opportunities that farmers are seeing during that week in the season. Next slide, please. Our Bean smartphone app was actually in a rebuilding phase this year. So we're really looking forward to improving the responsiveness and adding new information to this app. So in 2022, you can look forward to an improved smartphone app for pulse and soybean production. Next slide. Of course, our mainstay is our magazines, and Pulse Beat was once again issued on 3 occasions this year. And the Pulse Beat Science Edition that Cal mentioned earlier was also issued. We put a lot of effort into these magazines, and we get a lot of positive feedback, and I really encourage you to continue to look at these magazines, learn from them, and send us your comments in terms of what you would like to see in the future. Next slide. And the on-farm network continues to make strides to improve the transfer of results from the field to the broader farm community. A booklet of on-farm research results was published in collaboration with the Manitoba Crop Alliance, and members who had trials on their farms received these booklets. Again, there were 54 trials, and each grower that hosted a site received a single site report for that trial. And in February, we held a webinar to extend the results of all the trials. Next slide. And starting last year and continuing in 2021, of course, we populated the on-farm network results database on our website, but also complemented that with producing videos and webinars, which can be seen at the again on the network. And we're getting a lot of positive responses to taking the numbers that are in the database and creating videos that describe the overall trial results that we're witnessing on a given topic from trials across the province. So please check out those videos. They're quite informative. Next slide. And just to emphasize that the on-farm network has, since 2012, executed over 400 different trials. And when you look at them extending across the map, you'll appreciate the effort that goes into it and the coverage that we provide to growers in every region of the province. And we look forward to bringing new growers on board into this program and increasing those numbers of dots and their extent to every corner of the province. And I believe that is our final slide. If I'm correct, I will ask for any questions with respect to the research and production report.
Nothing yet in that area there, Daryl.
Okay. I'll just take a moment to, on behalf of the staff of MPSG, express our thanks to the support of members and of our board of directors throughout 2021. They were patient, both with COVID and with drought, and we, I think, managed to execute again a full program in support of the profitability of pulse and soybean growers in Manitoba. So once again, thanks to members and the board of directors. Last check for questions, Sandy?
No, you're off the hook there, Daryl. Oh, actually, I see that. Yeah, I think you saw.
Okay, Jack Fraser is asking, what is the cost of your on-farm network? So the cost to farmers if that's what you mean, it doesn't cost anything. You just have to be a member. The amount of budget that we dedicate to the on-farm network is around $300,000 to $350,000 a year. We were fortunate in the last 3 years, we were able to cost share that with the Canada-Manitoba CAP program. And as we move forward into the next policy framework, we certainly intend on applying to whatever program is available to receive cost sharing arrangements with government to carry that program forward. But that, Jack, is approximately the cost annually to run that program. With that, I will turn it back to Cal.
Thanks, Daryl. Thank you for all your work and the staff for all the work that you do. And that's been done on behalf of Manitoba farmers. Also, just a reminder to those participating that you didn't get your question answered, or we still will have time for questions at the end of the meeting. So I think I'll turn it over to Brendan Phillips, the chair of the Resolutions Committee, to present their report. Go ahead, Brendan.
Thanks, Cal. On behalf of the Resolutions Committee, I am presenting the following report in accordance with MPSG bylaws. Members who wish to bring a resolution to the annual general meeting must have done so by December 1st, 2021. Resolutions cannot be received from the floor. The board has 2 resolutions to bring forward to its members. Resolution number 1. Be it resolved that in 2022, MPSG will act as an agent of its producer members in all matters relating to scientific research and experimental development. I'll turn it back over to Cal for a call for nomination or motion.
Okay, do we have a mover for that? Be it resolved that Manitoba Pulse and soybean growers act as an agent of producer members in all matters relating to scientific research and experimental development. Sandy, do we have?
Yes, Ernie Sersky
Ernie?
had moved that.
Ernie Sersky moves. Do we have a seconder?
Ben Martins.
Ben Martins seconds that. Okay, now that we have a mover and a seconder, is there any discussion arising from that motion? Please enter them into the question and answer now. Maybe while we're waiting for that, just talk about how on our farm the on-farm network has worked. We've done population trials, we've done seed treatment, and I think we did a rolling study. We've done other ones as well. We've done a few, and we've done a few of those year over year, just to see what they are. So yeah, if you just are interested in any of these production type of things, I know there's an interest in biologicals right now. Leanne and Ian would be happy to chat with you about that. Is there any discussion regarding this resolution?
No, there is not.
Okay, I don't see any. Thank you, Sandy. There's no discussions. Members, please vote now. Okay, that is carried. And so I will declare that, the motion carried. I'll turn it back to Brendan to read the second resolution.
Thanks, Cal. The second resolution the board is bringing forward is be it resolved that all acts, contracts, and payments made, done, and taken by the directors and officers of the association be and are hereby approved, ratified, sanctioned, and confirmed. I'll turn it back over to Cal for a call for a motion.
Thanks, Brendan. So we have that motion that Brendan read to you. Do we have a mover and a seconder for that?
Oh, sorry, I'm just having some technical issues here.
Okay, well, while we wait for that,
It's moved by Chuck Fosse, and then I believe I saw Ernie Sersky second that.
okay, we have a mover, Chuck Fosse, and a seconder, Ernie Sersky. Thank you. Is there any discussion arising from that motion? If you have any questions, please enter them into the question and answer now. I'll just wait a few more seconds here, and then if Sandy and Melissa tell me if you have any questions or see any questions.
No, there's no questions that I can see.
Okay, seeing that there's no discussion, no questions, no comments, we'll put the vote up now. You should see a motion to vote pop up on your screens. Please vote. While we're waiting for that, one of the useful things I learned about the Manitoba Agriculture weather stations is how far down the frost is, how far the frost is in the ground. So if you look at one of those stations, they have different sensor depths, and so we were just wondering about how fast the snow would melt into the ground, and you can do that. I think it's around 2 feet. The stations that I looked at, just an interesting bit of trivia I thought I'd share while we were waiting for the results of that motion. Okay, that popped up on my screen, so that motion is carried. Thank you, Brendan, for presenting the Resolutions Committee report. I'll now turn it over to Mel Ratai for the next item on the agenda.
Good morning, I'm Melvin Ratai. Cal Penner joined the board in 2016 and has not only served as a chair for 3 years. Cal has patience to work through the trying times with virtual meetings. The farmer vision had freeze up, lost signals we had to go through. Had the patience to just work through it all. Gave each member a chance on the board to opportunity to speak and to be heard. One of Cal's most memorable occasions was when he went to Indonesia, where he would say that all soybeans there are food grade to them. Thanks for your leadership and dedication to the pulse and soybean industry. We wish you all the best, Cal, and it was a great opportunity to work with you and to be a board member with you. So from all the board members, thanks for your time and effort.
Well, thanks for those kind words, Mel. It's been a pleasure. It's been a learning experience. Thank you for your patience while my internet out on the farm wasn't working, and that's why I had to come to Carmen today to be involved in the meeting. But I just want to just thank the whole board. I think we have a great board here. We have a great balance of experienced members and some with new ideas, a good balance of new and more experienced members. I don't want to say old because I'm in that position as well, but just experienced members. So we have the new energy and ideas that new members bring, as well as the balance with the experience of others. So again, just like if anybody is interested in serving on this board, it's a great board. It's we have some great board members with a lot of experience, as I said. So just I'd encourage everybody to get involved in. If this board is full, then join another board somewhere else. So I think now at this point, we'll open it up for more questions and comments. The presenters are still all here, I believe. So if you wish to ask a question, you can do that. Raise your hand and we'll invite you to speak. Be sure that you are unmuted. You are welcome to turn on your video if you prefer. You can also ask the questions via the question and answer. So I'll just wait a few minutes. Just for that, excuse me. Muted. Okay. So just while we wait for any questions, while I remember to unmute myself, I thought I had. Just want to highlight again our website, Manitoba Pulse. Just check out our Science Edition Pulse Beat, the latest edition. It's got a lot of the research, what your checkoff dollars are being leveraged to work together with other groups, and some of the things that are interesting for on your farm. The on-farm network again. So Sandy or Melissa, are there any questions?
No, I'm not seeing anything pop up here.
Okay, seeing that there's no more questions, if you had a question, you can't get it in, please just be in touch with via email following the meeting, and we'll try and get back to you.
Actually, Cal, there is a late question that has come in.
Okay,
It's from Jennifer Johansson. She is asking, is there any concern by the increase in the levy refund requests? Are the producers that request refunds interviewed for the rationale?
That's a good question, Janice. And I think Daryl across the room, and he's willing to answer that question. Go ahead, Daryl. Thanks, Janice.
There, sorry. Thanks, Janice. Still says I'm muted. Am I on, Cal?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Janice. So number one, levy requests go up and down. We typically budget for 10% just to be on the high side. I'm not sure we often reach that point. And when a person does apply for a refund, we do pose questions. First of all, we remind them of the products and services that MPSG does provide for the checkoff dollar, and that we remind them that by renouncing their membership, they would not have, they would not be able to have access to some of those services, and that they would not be supporting them. So it's a question that we are cognizant of all the time, although we don't dwell on it. To be honest, we try and spend almost all of our time focused on developing, new and interesting products and services for the members that are on board. And what we've seen is an evolution, I think, in the thinking of some growers. But so far, we haven't seen an overwhelming number of requests coming in.
There is another question that has come in from Rory Qualley. He's just wondering, has there been any data or comments on farmers' experiences with PGRs in soybeans? He did a free trial with New Farm, and the results were less than desirable.
I can answer that as well. So Rory, I did type a response. I think I'm in the chat, but we're getting more and more questions on this whole group of products, plant growth regulators, as well as biologicals. So we're just starting to ramp up testing in those products. So we don't have a lot of information as of yet. We have done 1 or 2 on-farm tests with those products. The on-farm scale is not always the best way to test these things because there's often a number of products that you want to test at the same time and compare. So we hear the questions building, and we hope to address that. One of the things I would have to say is that particularly plant growth regulators, they operate by affecting the hormonal balances inside plants. And as such, they're very subject to the growing conditions, the weather, the soil moisture. And it's not surprising that one would see, variable responses to those kinds of products. And biologicals as another question, and again, very subject to environmental influences. So we're curious about those things, and we'll be looking into those more as the seasons progress.
Thanks, Daryl. Good question, Rory. So is there any more questions? Sandy?
I'm not seeing any, Cal.
Okay, Sandy doesn't see any more questions. Just give it a few seconds. But if not, then that brings us to the end of our agenda. I will declare the 2022 Annual General Meeting of Manitoba Pulse and Soybean Growers adjourned. Thank you.